Yes, yes. Welcome to another edition of motherfucking valuable perspectives. Man, I'm super excited today. We have a fucking dope guest, Mark, who's been just killing it in the NFT, crypto, DAO space. Man, I can't wait for y'all to hear about what Mark's been up to. So make sure y'all stay tuned. Shit. Word, word. Mark, thank you for joining us today. Man, so we were talking a little bit before we jumped on. You're one of Cheese Collector, Chimodu. One of the things that I'm working on is Flash Mint. So I would love for you to kind of talk about how you first got into crypto and, how did all that lead you to finding Cheese Collection?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me today, man. It's been a long time coming. I know we've been chatting for a while, but um, yeah, man, crypto has been a big part of my life now. I fell down the rabbit hole probably 10 years ago.
Mm,
Come from the traditional financial planning world, so I love embracing this like Web3 metaverse. Like, there's no attire in the metaverse. So I'm
mhm,
I'm used to just wearing my my business casual in the office, but as I've made the jump full time now into Web3, I can rock these sweatshirts. But yeah, man. So, I found I was just introduced to crypto in 2011. I was at a Halloween party, actually, probably 10 years ago to the day.
wow.
And, a mutual friend, we were just kind of, we were having some drinks. We were just bullshitting a bit. And he started, funny enough, was just kind of talking about his experience of buying Bitcoin, but for Silk Road purposes. So he was just buying cannabis online. And to me, I was like, well, all right, that's wild and amazing, and tell me more. And that was really what just kind of just really started me down. Like, all right, well, there's this internet money that there's no government or centralized entity that can control it. And I'm like, all right, I need to understand more because I've always just digged the underdog. I've always loved just
Mm,
kind of going against the grain. So it kind of
mhm,
filled the ethos for me of like everything that I love, from money
mm.
to internet to tech. It's like, all these things combined and kind of created this perfect storm. So from there, I mean, I think I bought my first Bitcoin, it was like $20 in 2011.
Nice.
I mean, now my wife, she likes to remind me often how, had I just bought it and kept it and not traded it and whatever, that we'd probably be worth a couple 100 million, but that's a story for another day. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so as years went on, I had a financial planning practice here in New Jersey, and I just couldn't talk about it with clients. It became this thing that I wasn't able to share, wasn't able to really advise on something that I just knew had such potential. And this is when Bitcoin was sub $1,000,
Hmm.
and 2014, 15, 16. So I just got just increasingly frustrated, increasingly more just agitated with that traditional system. I call it dinosaur finance, of just the old rails, the old system. 3 days to settle things. It was like, wait a minute, I can send this instantly without any central, without any middleman. So that was really where I kind of just really dug my heels in 2016. So 2016 was really where I was like, all right, I took my first large investment into the space. I loved the aspect and idea of Ethereum. So to me, it was like
Hmm.
I had this anchor of Bitcoin and core of just the most pristine form of money mixed with the programmability of Ethereum. I'm like, holy shit, like, yes. Like Ethereum, all right, like we can now just, it's all these like money Legos. Like you can start to just build things on top of it as a
Hmm.
platform. So I was like, all right. So yeah, so Ethereum was, I think it was like $7 or maybe under $10, I think, was where I made my first sizable kind of play into the space. And ever since that moment was where I just,
Hmm.
I fell in love with it. I would read it and research it literally every day, before bed, at night. Like my wife, my fiance at the time, or I guess we just got married. We just celebrated 5 years, but she's
Congrats.
like, thank you. It's like that funny meme. It's like, where like the dude is like kind of looking on his phone. She's like, is he cheating on me? It's like, no, I'm just looking at crypto.
Looking at Bitcoin prices.
Yeah. So yeah. So it was. it's been an amazing journey. And then here comes NFTs, right? So 2017,
Yeah.
I see CryptoPunks. I look at it and I laugh at it, and I'm like, this is why I have such a hard fight to try to tell people that crypto is real, and like, why people need to understand it and appreciate this more. So I scoffed at it. I didn't appreciate it for what it truly is, and here I am. I ended up having to buy. Well, where's the screen there? I don't know if you can see my punk. You can't really see it in the
Nice.
light, but I had to buy in at
Way later.
500x 500x from where it was at minting, when it was free. But so yeah, so NFTs came around, and that really to me just kind of tied all these things together. From we come from like this risk management place of like wills and trusts and estate planning, so it's like, all right, you can just take all these amazing things that you kind of live in this, like whatever it might be, we live in these old silos and filing cabinets. Now we can digitize them. So all these things came together, and here we are. So diving into NFTs, DAOs, and was able to just be fortunate enough to kind of embark on this full time. And I, officially left my, financial planning practice, and, doing this now. So
Now you're full NFT DGen DAO full time.
yeah, a little bit of mix of all of it.
I love it. Man, so much that like comes up for me. I mean, the fact that you were into Bitcoin so early, the fact that you were seeing Ethereum like literally at the launch, and it all made sense to you. Um, it's so beautiful. It's like you've been here for so long, and kind of like have some of the war stories of like, oh, I saw that coming, I laughed at it, I had to buy in later. But then also I'm sure it helps you make sense of things as they come now, right? So I'm seeing you with Ready Player DAO and what y'all have been doing, right? So could you explain to everybody like what is Ready Player DAO, and kind of like how did you get into starting that project?
Yeah. So to me, the DAO, so a DAO stands for decentralized autonomous organization. And, I think that the quick and easy way to think about it is a group of people with a joint mission with a shared bank account. And the blockchain enables for the first time the ability to have people all over the world that you might not necessarily know or trust, and to some degree, and ideally, I mean, they have the same vision and idea of where you want to bring the DAO, but it allows you now to just come together and create something bigger than just the individual. So it's like this collective hive mind. So to me, I was like, well, that's like, I've always been a team player. I've always loved this aspect of bringing people together. And now you have, we funded it. It started as like, all right, hey, you know what? We see Axie Infinity. We see this play to earn component. We know that we're at the precipice, like we're literally at the beginning, the ground floor of this. The games are questionably fun. Like, are we enjoying playing the game, or are we playing the game because it's, you're actually earning a living,
Right.
or you can at least earn an income from it. So I think we're at this part where it's like you're starting to see this decoupling of, you look at all these other games like Fortnite or whatever it might be. You take any other game in a
Madden.
traditional sense,
Yeah.
and they're siloed, right? So anything that you would buy, anything in game, all the money that you might spend throughout the course of your gaming career in that specific game, if the game developer decides to just stop developing on the game, they can rug you that way. If maybe you just decide that you don't want to play anymore and you just kind of get bored of it, all that money is just, it goes into the developer's pocket. So what I love, and just the empowerment of blockchain, of NFTs, and what what we're trying to accomplish as a DAO is bringing the play to earn gaming space to just a grand scale. So I would say the biggest play to earn gaming, if you'd call them a guild or an entity, is Yield Guild. They've been crushing it. They've been at this for what, I guess, a year, almost 2 years, I believe, like from as a structure and as an entity. So like they're doing things incredibly well. So we just kind of said, all right, how can we just bring the people, the resources, the assets, and how can we all come together, and maybe we can build something similar, not exactly the same, but something of the similar respect in that play to earn space. And Jacob Martin became a good friend. I met him in Miami for Bitcoin Miami in June, right before actually the day that I minted all of Chimodu's pieces. got on a plane, and I met Jacob at a coffee shop. And from there, we just became friends, and we both shared this vision and idea. So he kind of just wrangled a bunch of people together. And with over the course of, I'd say about 2 to 3 weeks, I think we raised about 1,500 Ethereum. So we raised current value of about $5 to $6 million. We gathered incredibly smart, brilliant people. One of them is Aaron Wright. So he's the founder of Open Law, which is now Tribute Labs. Founder
like Flamingo DAO,
the Lao, Flamingo DAO, Museo DAO. So, Aaron basically helped launch Ethereum. He wrote the law and a lot of just the legalities behind Ethereum. So we tapped him to say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. What do you think? To the point where they said, yeah, hey, we want to help you because we have the tooling, the infrastructure, and we're going to make sure that this thing is going to be the most clean cut, just compliant, regulatory compliant, and just well buttoned up and oiled machine. But hey, we also want to come in and we see the value here. So, so they came in as a founder with us, but also as the service provider. So they're helping make sure that we're going to steer the ship in the right direction, that we won't have any missteps. We have, I think, 8 or 9 attorneys by trade who are now kind of just diving into into the metaverse full time and head first. So yeah, so that's what it's our core structure and strategy is Axie Infinity, because I think it's probably the best game in terms of play to earn gaming, at least in terms of viability, legitimacy, earning power, and potential. So right now we have about 2,000 scholars. So it's basically one aspect of our DAO is a scholarship model. So basically we have players and scholars from all over the world. We just onboarded, I think, 150 scholars from India. And COVID really expedited this, where you just have this new type of work, right? Where I think you saw the rise of Uber, you saw the rise of all these just different type of gig economies, just kind of propping up. And gaming is no different, right? And blockchain, again, it enables all these things. So people started looking for another way to just make revenue when they couldn't work anymore. They couldn't go to a traditional job in whatever country they were in. And believe it or not, like these games are paying between 10 and 20 times what their traditional working wage was in their hometown, in that country,
which is huge,
which is insane. So it empowers all these people. So we're like this could be massive. So our goal is we'll have with a scholarship model that would allow us to basically help any specific game. And right now all of our focus and attention is in Axie, but our goal in the long term is to have 5,000, 10,000 scholars ultimately. And then ultimately, as these other games are starting to become more prominent, as they just become more mature, and actually just playable and profitable, we can just start to just maybe direct and train and teach certain players, just about that specific game and how they can be good at it. So, and then ultimately, I think our goal is we'll deploy capital into other play to earn ecosystems, whether it's the infrastructure, the tooling, projects, games themselves, founders. So we're just finalizing a raise finally in the next week or two, hopefully. So that'll just give us a little bit more of some more capital to, I guess, kind of make that vision and mission a little bit more prominent. So yeah, so we're super excited.
I love it so much. It's like one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you today, because I believe in the future of blockchain gaming. And I feel like for some people, it's hard to understand, right? And the fact that your DAO has raised millions of dollars, right? You see this as such a real opportunity. You have traditional finance coming in, right? Looking at this as a real opportunity. It can show everybody like this is real, right? This isn't just play money on the internet, people playing games. This is something that a lot of people are taking very seriously. They're investing real money in, and people are already earning money, right? To your point, the people in India, the people in the Philippines, there's people who are actually taking the play to earn a living out of it. And so I'm curious as far as it's like to do the best, right? You're talking about CryptoPunks and Axie. It's like you have to essentially get in early to see what's coming. So like how do you as the DAO, like how do you play that? Do you wait until things hit a certain critical mass? Do you take risk early because you're like, okay, this, even though this hasn't hit yet, this is going to be the best entry price to, get some of these Genesis pieces. How does a DAO look at that?
That's a really great question. And I think we approach everything a little differently, but because of the power that we have as, you know, we have such a big reach of all the members within the DAO in one way or another. So, we have access to deal flow, or like we'll just have access to certain things that, we might just get handed or just kind of passed along to say, hey, this might be worth researching and looking into. And then as a collective unit, we'll have basically a separate channel for every upcoming game or every upcoming project. And then we might just have somebody that just, they might dive into it a little bit deeper because either they have prior knowledge of that specific type of game, they maybe just are kind of excited about that specific thing, like whether, I don't know, might be, I'm wearing Rumble Kongs today, so we have a team in Rumble Kongs. I have some a personal team in Rumble Kongs. Could just be, when you look at basketball in general, so it'll be probably like a Zed Run meets NBA or basketball to some degree, where you have this play to earn component. So, we just had, a couple members of the DAO that just really did a deep dive into the tokenomics, the economics of the game. And then we realized, all right, well, if we're going to deploy capital, at what level? So we have a vote. We just had, so Tribute Labs and Open Law just launched our decentralized app. So it's pretty cool. The beautiful thing about this whole DAO thing is like you have your ownership units, from your initial investment, and that's just your weighted vote towards any sort of governance that we need. So if we need to make a vote on new members, on how much to deploy in a certain game, you deploy that capital, basically you just vote on it and your shares are kind of just allocated towards the weight of your percent ownership. So that's finally going live. So I think we'll finally have our first governance vote in the next couple of weeks. Awesome. But yeah, so the long-winded answer is, we look at everything a little bit differently. If we find that maybe there's a better opportunity in certain games, we'll go a little harder. We'll allocate a little bit more of our resources to it. But more than just money, we also we have incredible just knowledge and just very brilliant people that could also just provide, some sort of guidance too. So we become very connected with the founders of these projects, the different teams, different guilds, so different folks that, we don't look at YGG as a competitor. We're even talking about maybe doing some sort of like competitive tournament together of like having just, it's not a zero-sum game, so for all of us, it's like the better we can all do, the more that people we can onboard into the ecosystem in general, and then the play to earn gaming specifically, the better we all do as, as different entities. So yeah, we approach it from just a very open-minded but calculated risk, perspective.
Man, I love that. I feel like from where you stand and just like being in Bitcoin early, being in Ethereum, seeing these NFTs now being a part of blockchain gaming and a part of DAOs, I feel like there's a reason why, you're working with people like Aaron, there's a reason why, you guys are raising this type of money. So I'm personally fascinated by the concept of DAOs. Like I got super excited about NFTs, as I'm sure you did in Ethereum. And when I learned about DAOs, I got this next level of excitement. And I kept seeing people talk about it on Twitter, like, oh, DAOs are going to be big. And I didn't like, it took me a while. But then when I finally realized the potential of what DAOs can be, I feel like they're actually bigger than the potential of NFTs as far as just organizations, right? And how the future of business is potentially going to be ran and organized. So I'm just curious of like, what have you learned so far in launching a DAO, being a part of a DAO, and where you're at in the whole ecosystem?
I think we're and not to sound not to be cliche, but it's insanely early in this little like sub segment. When I talk to friends that aren't crypto native, that don't really, they might just throw a couple bucks into their Coinbase and they'll buy some Doge or Shibu or whatever they might do, and they'll dabble and they'll start to get interested and involved. Then I go into this into this little subculture of this crypto world, and you just even like my aunt, I had a conversation with her, her eyes glazed over. She's like, honey, I don't even know what the hell you're saying right now. So it's,
For real.
I look at it like, yeah, I think it's the next generation. I think the generation, below, maybe a couple of generations below me. I think this is going to be the way that people start to just like work and kind of form their own little communities within these greater, these greater communities, right? COVID expedited the kind of like, the acceptance for video calls and video chats and not needing
Work
to
from
just
anywhere.
travel.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're starting to see this thing play out in 20, 30-year vision. I think DAOs will ultimately, like, you'll just see DAOs owning sports teams, which we're in talks of potentially doing that. Looking at some European soccer teams that, again, a collective group of people with this common goal and mission to build and own a successful soccer team. So I think you're going to start to see just different forms of them. I think they'll all have their own little like unique spin, their own vibe. Like that's what's cool too, because everyone will have their own little personality and they'll have their own like mission statement. So
it's like a company.
Exactly. But the nice thing is that you're on this flat structure where everyone has just their own almost equally weighted votes, and that's obviously that varies, but as opposed to that hierarchical structure of, just traditional corporations. So to me, it's like, and then, I love the story. I know Jameis had dinner with him maybe about 2 months ago of Pleaser DAO, and they just bought the lone existing, Wu-Tang album.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like,
can you tell the people a little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically what, 2015, 2016, Martin Shkreli, Pharma Bro was like the most hated dude in America. He ended up buying a pharmaceutical company for, I believe it was diabetes or whatever it was. I forget exactly what it was. Pretty sure it was diabetes. He raised the price of this drug 10,000%, an absurd number. And, he's looking at it from sheer profit perspective. And obviously everyone else was like, well, that's terrible. People can barely afford it as it is. So he ends up getting popped for money laundering or some just illegal, just whatever he was doing illegally with the company. But before he did, he actually ended up buying the One Night in Shaolin from the Wu-Tang Clan. It was the lone existing album, had all these parameters and restrictions, less than 200 listeners at one time. There's like an 88-year rights period. So I'm a little naive with like all the logistics there. But in his, him getting kind of just popped for whatever he did, the government seized it and confiscated that album. And here comes Pleaser DAO in a similar fashion. I guess a couple months ago, they had pulled up a bunch of money and ended up buying, the genesis piece of People Pleaser. A very talented artist, comes from like the world of DeFi, and that was a start of their just incredible journey of what a DAO could truly look like. They bought up a bunch of assets in the meantime. Edward Snowden's Genesis piece, I think it was about $6 million. And then, I guess over the last couple of months, they were in touch with, whether it was the government or whoever was representing the government
the feds,
for that
I think,
piece.
owned it or something.
Yeah. So they were negotiating with the feds, basically how to acquire the piece. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall to just understand, like, so you guys are who? You're a bunch of internet nerds that you put a bunch of your internet money together and you want to buy this thing for how much? Okay. So right. I love it. I think it's fascinating. But when I try to explain it to the average person, like that sounds illegal, or that's money laundering, or, you get all these different answers. But yeah. So now Pleaser DAO owns that lone existing album, and I'm stoked to see what they're gonna do with it. I think they were just on Hot 97. I think there was. Really? I actually meant to listen to it. I think they just released it today.
Man, I need to see what they're doing, because I heard they might be like somehow you can listen to it and like they're doing something. So like everybody wants to hear that. So it's so crazy. So speaking of like Wu-Tang and hip hop, one of the reasons we connected is because you're a collector of Chimodu's collection, right? And you own one of his one of one pieces that he minted before unfortunately passing away. And I would love to talk to you just about your journey in discovering that piece. I mean, to me, that's like one of the most prolific NFT pieces of all time. Just who Chi was as an artist, photographer, the fact that he had the foresight to mint before he passed away through cancer, and just being able to like navigate all of this, like you were just talking about. He also has a crypto voxel plot that he bought and kind of put together. So I'm just so curious about your journey in finding that collection.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, this is probably my favorite story when I try to explain the value and the power of NFTs to the average person who might not really know. I literally pull out my phone and I show them my own personal gallery that I made of my Chimodu collection. So,
Mhm.
I was very active, or at least just from a research perspective, active in the CryptoPunks Discord.
Mhm.
And to me, that was just probably the best source of just information and alpha, because you had such amazing people who all just kind of understood and knew this market. And you had some people that were in there. This was back in June. That, I mean, they were in it all day, every day, or at least in
Mhm.
it for a couple hours at a time each day. So people that were just very plugged into the pulse of what was happening in the overall NFT market. But specifically for me, I also just wanted to get a feel for just the punks market. So for a while, I was just kind of like trading punks for a little while and just finding, underpriced opportunities. And then ultimately looking, as the market started to just heat up a little bit, just finding the arbitrage there. And basically I guess it was the day, right? It was the night before Bitcoin Miami. So it was like June 2nd. And I'm in there and I saw somebody had posted the link. It was the Rarible link to Cheese Collection. And I looked at it and I went in and I'm like, well, this is pretty wild. So they posted that, but then they also posted the Rolling Stones article about him passing away. So
Mhm.
I was like, holy shit! Like if this is real, this is legendary. And
Mhm.
I get goosebumps even talking about it now. But looking at all those pictures, it's like you're stepping back in time. And for me, I mean, growing up, loving hip hop and just knowing and just seeing those pictures my entire life, you're like, holy shit! I never dawned on me, or I never appreciated just like the very person behind the camera
Mhm.
that took all these pictures that I've just seen everywhere.
Yep.
So at the time, his account wasn't yet verified. So you're like,
Mhm.
is this real? Is this like,
Mhm.
because anybody can literally say, hey, I'm Chimodu and I took these pictures.
Right.
So it was a bit of taking a leap of faith. And I looked at them and I was like, oh wow, this is pretty amazing. A bunch of them were for 0.01, or at the time was like 30 to $40. And there were two that were at 4 ETH. So it was about, I think ETH was sitting around like 3 grand. So it was like 12K for each of the one of ones, and they were both available. The Biggie in front of the World Trade Center, and then the Tupac smoking, which is the one I ultimately end up having now. The Tupac piece was his Genesis piece, and to me, like when I hear and see the different interviews that she is on, and when he talks about his relationship with Pac, it's like that was his dude, and they had such a special bond that I don't think she was able to. Not that he wasn't able to connect, but he didn't connect with other artists the same way that he was able to with Tupac. So
Mhm.
I think that was kind of evident with him deciding to actually mint that one first. The Biggie piece is incredible, because literally nothing in that picture exists anymore. Biggie has
Mhm.
passed away, and the Twin Towers are no longer there. So you're like,
Mhm.
holy shit, like it's iconic, it's incredible. But I looked at it, I was like, all right, I'm busy, I have to pack, I got to run around, I got to get all my shit together. I'm leaving for Miami in the morning. So I kind of like I had the screen up on my or the Rarible thing up in my on my computer screen, and I kind of just walked away and I finished packing. Then the next morning, it was Dom. So Dom ended up buying that Biggie piece,
Mhm.
and he posted a screenshot of that successful purchase. I was like, oh shit. So to me, that was
It's
validation that it
real.
was legit. It was like fuck, because that was the one that I wanted to buy,
Mhm.
and I was like, I damn it. I'm like, I waited too long. There's no way that Tupac is still there.
Right.
And I went back, and sure enough, it was still available. I said, holy shit. I ran and I got my ledger. I plugged my hardware wallet in as fast as I could. And I literally, and I'm like, all right, I'm like, this is a bit of a gamble. I'm like, to me, it just has the upside, the upside potential for this. It far outweighs this risk. I'm like, all right, if it turns out to be a fake collection or whatever, all right, it's 4 ETH. It sucks. It'll sting, but
Mhm.
it's worth it. So I minted that.
Mhm.
And I minted a bunch of others. I didn't buy the whole collection at that time. But I minted all the maybe like 5 or 10 more that I could, and then I just kind of packed all my shit, and then I got on a plane and I left for Miami. Started talking to people. I met Noah from Christie's there. Jacob Martin, Aaron Saltzman. He's the founder of or half of Young and Sick. So a bunch of people prominent in the music industry, and they're like, "Wait, you have that? Like, you just bought this?" And I was just excited. I'm like, I don't know what I think this. If this is real, this could be legitimate. they're like, holy fuck, this could be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I had it listed. Before I left, I was like, all right, let me throw it up for 100 ETH.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no one will buy it, because I'm like, I don't even know if anyone really even knows about the collection yet outside of that Punks Discord. All of a sudden, the whole collection sells out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, shit. I was like, my hardware wallet was home. I was in Miami, and I was like, someone might scoop this. If they want it bad enough, they're gonna buy it at 100 ETH. In my mind, I'm like, for arguably like the most historical and culturally significant NFT that I can think of when I think about, you know, that type of era. I'm like, I came home. Thankfully nobody bought it. I delisted it right away, and that was kind of where I started my journey of meeting just people. I was on the hunt to meet you and figure out, like, how did he even figure this out? How did he know to get into this space? And I think somebody randomly posted your Instagram. I think you had posted something on Instagram, and then they posted it on Twitter. And someone that I follow within the Chimodu world retweeted it. I said, "Holy shit, Enrico, that's the dude. Like, this is my guy." And I literally immediately I reached out to you, and that kind of started our friendship and our journey. You know, as we talked about this collection.
Man, it's so amazing hearing about it from your end, right? Because I was on the side like talking with Chi, and like he was so excited about this technology, and in like even the way he priced those two pieces, he was like, he hit me up, he was like, yo, I minted my first two pieces. He was like, I'm already selling that Sotheby's for this price. That's the price of this. I'm like, boom, like it makes
Yeah,
a ton of sense. The market, like you already have the value of the market, and then what was interesting is like it was about a week and a half where that kind of sat there, and then I hit him up and I was like, honestly, selfishly, like one of the reasons I wanted you to do these NFTs is because I want a bunch of your NFTs. And I was just like, right now, 4 ETH for one NFT, it was just like it was a lot for me. And I was like,
yeah,
and I explained to him, I was like, there's a lot of people like me who love your art, and that price point is gonna like price them out, and I let him know, like, you're doing the posters in the real world, and for that's where he saw it. He was like, you know what, I am doing that. And so that's where the 100 out of 100 pieces came from, of like mimicking that whole space in the real world. And so just to like see the other side of it, one of the things I just regret is that he wasn't able to see that moment where they all sold out, because he knew that was coming. It was
yeah,
just the timing of it. We weren't even able to properly roll it out and promote it, because I do believe it would have all eventually sold out, once he
undoubtedly.
kind of put the word out there. But really, one of the things he only did was like you could see a tweet. Like if you go on his Twitter, you see one of the tweets that he put verifying his account, and it's
Yeah,
all kind of surreal because he starts retweeting some of the people who purchased some of them, and so it was like it was all getting started. But just the fact that the collectors came and found it, and people like yourself who do appreciate his work, got a piece of it. It just it fills my heart, because like that was the vision. And now like the legacy, like you said, like he was the man behind the lens that helped shape the vision of how we see hip hop, and
yeah,
that's what some of these photographers did. They didn't just take pictures, they literally helped create the visual of what it looks like. People like
yeah,
him, Jamil. There's a slew of photographers that really help paint that image, and now it's beyond just like people seeing the image. Now people get to understand that there is an artist behind it. And I think the Instagram era, there was the artist, but if you think about it, it was Instagram and Facebook that were monetizing all of those images, right?
yeah,
And the artist really didn't get anything. And me and she used to talk about that, right? It's like all those images he put on the Instagram, and thousands and thousands of likes and all that attention that Facebook and Instagram does utilize, right? They throw ads on top of those images, but the photographers, they never get a dime off of any of that. So this is really a
no,
revolutionary time where for the first time in history, some of these photographers are getting some of what I feel like they're owed for creating this culture that we've all been visually putting in our heads. Like without these images, then this concept of culture, it's not the same that we have it in our heads and how we see it.
for sure. Yeah, and I think, this, to have this collection. I mean, and we've chopped it up a bunch of just about the sheer concept. Part of my storytelling, as I just kind of walk people through my gallery, which maybe you can even, you can add it at some point and plug it, because
For sure. Yeah, I'll put it in the
it's just a
notes.
it's just a fun thing to kind of just, at least it's like a time capsule. But when I explained to them that, that anytime that any one of those pictures sells, his family, his wife, his kids, his estate, and he set the royalty, and it's higher than most, but it's at 20%. So every single time that one of those pictures just changes hands, his family will get 20% of that sale in perpetuity for the rest of their lives, for as long as
Yeah.
that collection exists and trades. So to
Yeah.
me, that is like, when I say that to people, I'm like, all right, well, this just sold for 2.5 Ethereum. All right, let's call it 10 grand. Their family just made 2 grand, because, and not even having to do anything, it's going to get deposited into their Ethereum wallet automatically.
It's so
Like, that to me is
it's
amazing.
surreal. It's
Yes.
surreal that like you could do that, and yeah, your family is taken care of. And think about it. Like if we think about like in 3 generations, like what if one sells for like 100 million? And it's just it's really
Yeah.
surreal when you think about it in perpetuity. Like right now, a year down the line, it's still a big deal. But when you stretch that timeline out, I mean, it's really cool. I couldn't agree more. So, Mark, how can people get a hold of you? I'm sure like you're blowing minds with everything you're doing, and people want to kind of follow you in some of your projects. How can they do that?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at MarkyDAO, MarkyDAO, Ready Player DAO. So you can follow at Ready Player DAO on Twitter as well. I'd say those are probably just the two. I feel like this blockchain and crypto world and NFT, the NFT world all lives on Twitter. So that's where I spend a
Hmm.
lot of my time. I have the same handle on Discord as well. So yeah, man. I mean, I'm so grateful to be in this movement, in this community. Just sharing just great vibes and moments with people like yourself, man. So yeah, would love, we'll be in. I don't know if this is going to actually air though for NFT NYC, but we'll be in New York next week for for that. So
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
try to get it out before that for sure.
amazing.
Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you for your time. And thanks to all y'all for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Until next time, y'all, peace and love.
Thank